Before any official clarification could even catch its breath, the discussion around Xiaoyao had already escaped the boundaries of a normal drama review and turned into a collective emotional event, because what audiences sensed this time was not marketing heat, not manufactured romance, and certainly not a prepackaged CP narrative, but something far more unsettling to an industry addicted to formulas, authenticity quietly breaking through the noise, and at the center of that rupture stood Songyun and Hou Minghao, a pairing that was never supposed to dominate headlines yet somehow ended up forcing everyone to look twice, listen longer, and question why so many perfectly calculated dramas fail to leave even a trace. While this one lingers uncomfortably in the mind long after the screen fades to black, let's be clear from the outset, there is no secret real-life relationship, no hidden romance waiting to be exposed, and no scandal waiting to explode. Yet the irony is that the absence of those elements is exactly what made the audience restless, because what they witnessed was an emotional synchrony so precise that it felt almost intrusive, as if viewers had stumbled upon something private rather than performed. Something lived rather than designed, and this is where the real shock lies, not in gossip, but in recognition. The entertainment industry has long believed that chemistry can be engineered through exposure, filters, trending hashtags, and relentless promotion. But Xiaoyao quietly dismantles that illusion by proving that chemistry refuses to be commanded, because it operates on instinct, timing, restraint, and trust, all things that cannot be quantified in data sheets or replicated through algorithms. The now infamous wordless hug scene is a perfect example, stripped of swelling music, exaggerated camera movement, and emotional shortcuts, leaving only breath, hesitation, and permission, a 3-second pause that spoke louder than a dozen scripted confessions, and viewers felt it instantly, not because it was dramatic, but because it was human. Hou Minghao's slight delay before stepping forward, Songyun's barely perceptible inhale before responding. These were not director's instructions, but reflexes shaped by experience, signaling two actors listening rather than performing, and this is precisely why audiences responded so fiercely, because they recognized something they rarely see anymore. Actors trusting silence. The discussion around casting soon followed, exposing a deeper industry anxiety, because this pairing does not conform to the dominant logic of youth worship, visual exaggeration, or emotional overcompensation. Instead, presenting two performers who understand when to advance and when to retreat, when to hold and when to release, resulting in a balance that feels natural rather than negotiated. Songyun has often been reduced to the label of looking young. Yet what Xiaoyao reveals once again is that her true strength lies in emotional control, her ability to stop before tipping into excess, allowing vulnerability to exist without begging for sympathy, while Hou Minghao, often associated with sharp features and youthful intensity, demonstrates a new maturity by choosing restraint over display, allowing imperfection to surface instead of rushing to assert presence. Together, they form a dynamic where neither competes for dominance, neither overshadows the other, and neither relies on visual tricks to manufacture intimacy, and that alone already sets them apart in a market flooded with urgency and noise. Audience comments reflect this clarity with startling consistency, from "they're not acting like people falling in love, but like people who already know what it costs," to "this is the first time in years I didn't fast-forward a romance scene," revealing a collective exhaustion with artificial sweetness and a hunger for emotional honesty. Yet beyond the immediate praise lies a more subtle but far-reaching shift in viewing behavior, because many viewers admitted they were no longer watching Xiaoyao passively, but actively, rewinding scenes, rewatching gestures, and debating interpretations not to hunt for Easter eggs or plot twists, but to understand emotional intent, which signals a rare moment when a drama encourages viewers to slow down rather than binge mindlessly. This is particularly striking in a landscape dominated by short video logic, where even long-form series are increasingly edited to accommodate fragmented attention spans, and yet Xiaoyao manages to reclaim stillness as a virtue, making silence feel dense rather than empty. Such moments force the audience to confront an uncomfortable realization. Perhaps it was never that viewers lacked patience, but that most productions never trusted them enough to offer anything worth waiting for. Of course, not everyone is celebrating, and critical voices remain necessary, pointing out the drama's structural weaknesses and uneven pacing, reminding us that strong performances cannot indefinitely compensate for systemic shortcomings. Yet, even these criticisms inadvertently reinforce the central truth. Without Songyun and Hou Minghao, Xiaoyao would likely have vanished into the endless stream of forgettable releases. This raises an uncomfortable question the industry would rather avoid. Why are actors repeatedly asked to rescue flawed systems, and how long can audiences be expected to accept it? The pattern is painfully familiar, where capable performers are praised for carrying the drama, a phrase that sounds like admiration but is, in reality, an indictment of the machinery behind them. Because it implies that the burden of emotional credibility has been shifted entirely onto individual actors rather than being shared by writing, directing, and production as a whole. For years, audiences tolerated this imbalance because they were offered little alternative, but now, after witnessing works that respect emotional logic and narrative coherence, their tolerance has visibly eroded. The unexpected resonance of Xiaoyao is not proof that viewers have suddenly become harsher or more demanding, but that they have finally become unwilling to be dismissed, unwilling to exchange their time and emotional investment for hollow spectacle, and unwilling to pretend that louder means better. What truly unsettles producers is not the popularity of this pairing, but the precedent it threatens to set, because it suggests a future where acting matters again, where silence is allowed to breathe, where trust replaces performance anxiety, and where authenticity becomes the most valuable currency on screen. This is precisely why industry reactions have been so conflicted, oscillating between admiration and defensiveness, because chemistry like this cannot be industrialized, cannot be replicated through auditions alone, and cannot be guaranteed by pairing two trending faces, and once audiences experience it, they instinctively recognize its absence elsewhere. In this sense, Xiaoyao functions less as a commercial success story and more as a stress test, exposing how fragile the current production model becomes when stripped of filters, hype, and narrative shortcuts. It forces creators to confront whether they still believe in performance as a craft rather than a tool, and whether they are willing to accept slower returns in exchange for longer lasting impact. Whether this pairing becomes a fleeting exception or the first crack in an outdated system remains uncertain. But one thing is already clear: the audience has spoken, not through outrage, but through attention, patience, and emotional commitment, choosing to stay present rather than scroll away. And in an era where attention is the rarest resource of all, that choice may be the most powerful statement possible. Thank you for staying with us until the very end, and if you value thoughtful analysis beyond surface-level hype, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to 24H News, TM, and tell us in the comments, do you believe Xiaoyao is an accident or the beginning of a real shift in the industry?